Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the 25th in our series of Tea Tuesday events and the 8th of 2022. My name's Hilary Woodhead. I am NAPA's Executive Director, and I'm delighted to host these live events, which usually enable me to drink tea, but today I am breaking with tradition and I've got a Diet Coke in a fancy glass. Because for those of you who are joining us in the UK, you will know that we are in the middle of a heat wave. For those of you who are joining us from other parts of the world, very nice to see everybody. But really, we're not used to this weather. We're really not. So pardon the fan and the cold drink on Tea Tuesday this month. So I'm joined by industry experts every month on Tea Tuesday, and I'm delighted to say that they are always exceptional people. And I am joined today by two very, very lovely friends who are going to share a little bit about themselves, and together we are going to talk about the moment in time. This is a free event, always a free event. If you'd like to donate the price of a cup of tea or coffee, or a Diet Coke in a fancy glass, that would be very much appreciated. Gianna will, it's along the bottom as I speak, how to do that if you wish to. I am joined today by Dr. Denise Turner. Denise is a social work specialist practitioner, and Natalie Ravenscroft, who is NAPA's Wellbeing Support Manager. Natalie is a consultant activity provider, and she joins us after many years working in the care home sector as an activity provider. So we're going to be chatting about moment in time, what it is, why we decided to mark a moment in time as a result of the pandemic, and we're going to be chatting for the next half an hour or so. So please say hi in the chat, tell us where you are, what you're up to, and please send in your questions. So first of all, I'd like to welcome you both, Denise and Natalie. Thank you for joining me this afternoon. I hope you've got something cold to drink. You got something there? Good. I'd love to hear a little bit more about you both. So Denise, would you start us off? Just tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do and your areas of professional interest, please.
Thanks, Hilary. Thanks for that lovely introduction, and also just for pointing out how hot it is today. My fingers are so sticky that I'm having trouble with my mouse mat on my laptop. So my name's Denise Turner. And I'm a senior lecturer in social work at the University of Chichester. I'm also a registered social worker, and I've worked in lots of different sectors in the past. My most recent practice experience is in a hospice. I'm also a qualified funeral celebrant, and I do independent training on loss and bereavement. So my research interests and my professional interests are very much around loss and around transition and change, and also around bereavement. And I've done lots of work in that in the past and now.
Excellent. Thank you, Denise. And Natalie.
Thank you, Hilary. I'm the Wellbeing Support Manager here for NAPA, and my main roles are supporting the support line service, which is a free phone confidential service that NAPA provides to members and non-members, anyone working within the care sector, family, friends, discussing ideas, well-being approaches, and in some cases, information, advice and guidance around activity ideas. I often am challenged to source and help and support with a range of questions. I also support the Support and Share Network here at NAPA, which is an online, free again, it's open to anyone, session on the third Monday at 2 o'clock of every single month, and you just book your ticket through Eventbrite. And I'm also lead on the APA group, which is the NAPA Activity Providers Advisory Group, and that consists of a group of activity providers working within the sector to discuss, co-create and advise around all our resources, and also with external organisations.
Lovely. Thank you both so much. And I'm sure you both do a lot more than that, but thank you for being brief with your introductions. That's fantastic. So Denise, can I just come to you first? Can you tell us a little bit more about Moment in Time, kind of where the idea came from, Did it literally just, did you wake up one morning and think, I've got an idea? And why you approached NAPA and the National Care Forum to be involved?
I can, yes. Well, I'll start with NAPA and the National Care Forum. As you know, Hilary, we'd worked previously at the beginning of the pandemic on a project called Stars in Memory, which I think we can make the claim was the first kind of national event to try and memorialize really and remember the people that had died. And this was right at the start of the pandemic. And I guess that's important because at the start of the pandemic, we didn't know how long it was going to be. And of course, it's still with us now, which I think is important to acknowledge. But there was a sort of feeling that, it'll all be over in a week, and then, gradually, I think the kind of the situation began to sink in more and more. So we worked together really successfully on Stars in Memory. And I suppose the work that I do professionally, both in my academic work and my other work, is very much concerned with meaning making. So the idea that actually in order to kind of process and not necessarily come to terms with in that sort of closure way, but to help us kind of come to terms with the losses and the things that happen to us over the course of our lives, one of the best ways of helping with that is to try and make meaning from them. So, and of course, that's not always easy. But time capsules, are very well established. They're something that are used a lot, memory boxes. We also use a lot in social work. We do life story work with looked after children. So it was really sort of bringing all those things together as the pandemic went on and as we, went into the second lockdown and then the third lockdown. And I just got to thinking, what can we do that will help actually, because I think the losses aren't just the bereavements that people had, although there were way too many of those, there were just also the losses of contact, of routine, just of all the things that were meaningful for people. So it felt like a way of acknowledging that. And I guess just to finish off with that, on a personal level, we made a box. My family and I made a box. So this is our box. I don't know if you can see it. We haven't opened it yet, but my two children, both of whom are grown up, my son was doing his A-levels at the time, and my daughter was finishing the final year of her degree. So there is also something, in terms of the young people too, and all the different generations that experienced just the loss of kind of normality in that time.
Absolutely, thank you. That's a lovely introduction to Moment in Time. And do you just can you just tell us a little bit about the box, about why we put together the idea of the box particularly?
Well, so the box is based on the idea of time capsules. We didn't bury ours. We put it in a place, where we wouldn't see it for a year. And we've got these lovely resources so what we did is we said to people, your box can be anything. It can be an old Pringles can. It can be whatever you like. You don't have to sort of go and buy a really expensive box. But we made these lovely resources available on the NAPA website and the NCF website. So we had this seal here that you can see. We put our names on ours, and we had also this really lovely sort of moment in time border. So we had all these different resources to decorate the box. And we on the website, Natalie, I know, designed a lovely resource that just made suggestions to people about what they might put in it. So ours has got, I haven't opened ours, and I feel almost reluctant to open it now. It feels really symbolic, but ours has got things in it. We went for lots of walks, so it's got the dried grasses, and I think it's got television programs that we were binge watching at that point. It's got our COVID certificates, our vaccine certificates. So all the things that felt kind of symbolic to us at that time. And I think it's also just significant to say how much has changed. It's only a year but a lot has changed and much has stayed the same also.
Yes. So a year today.
Yeah.
Since we encouraged people to get involved with Moment in Time, as that marked what we thought was the end of the pandemic. So Natalie, how did we involve care homes and activity providers? Can you tell us a little bit about the process?
Yeah, sure. So as Denise mentioned, we had a dedicated webpage on the NAPA website, enabling anyone at all that was scoping through the webpage to download the resources and the templates that was there. Another way that we reached out was obviously through our Facebook group, our private activity support group. And then the other way was through our APA group. So as I mentioned in my introduction, the Activity Providers Advisory Group here at NAPA actually took part in the project, dedicated themselves to that. And it was really, really interesting to see how they interpreted their moments in time with the individuals that they support. And I might talk a little bit about that, if that's okay, Hilary. When we it's very difficult in some cases to question how we're going to, as Denise mentioned, support the individuals through and after the pandemic and them conversations. We're not trained counsellors in the care sector. Some of us, we're carers, we're activity providers, we're admin, but we're inevitably going to be having them conversations. And we want to support the people we care for as best as we can. So when Denise came with this idea, it was really well received by everyone that has been taking part in this project. The feedback has been fantastic. But they interpreted it in such a unique way, and every single time, I say it all the time for you guys, our activity providers out there, you literally blow us out the water here at NAPA. We give you something, we share something with you, and we can't even imagine what's going to come back from that. So when they went away a year ago today, and they did their boxes, and then they had an opportunity to share with us what they put in their box, what kind of conversations were having around this box, how people felt, and there's so many. We haven't got enough time to go through that, but some of the boxes contained poetry. People felt expressing memories and moments through writing. Some did voice recordings, some did a collection of objects, that tangible kind of relationship, empty toilet rolls, for example. Others put little momentum gifts in there. And then there was this real sense of capturing, yes, the bad stuff that happens, so that we never forget. However, there was this real drive around the positives that came out of that pandemic, and the close bonds that were made, the friendships that were formed, the unique ways of using technology, and it was really emotional to when they've come back, after a year ago today, and share what had gone into them boxes. So I'm even more keen. I'm probably going to be really moved more again, because we do cry here quite often, about how they feel once they open these boxes.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And I can hear the emotion in your voice when you talk about it, because I think you were there, weren't you? You were working in care homes in lockdown, and experienced, on the front line, what it was like to support people, in the thick of it. So, thank you for that, Natalie. So just back to you, Denise. I know that you have a particular interest in objects and the significance of objects. You mentioned meaning making. Can you just say a little bit more about that and how that informed perhaps your idea and how it informs your practice as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd really like to add to what Natalie said just before I answer that question, Hilary, and say that, I remember being included in one of your meetings, Natalie, when you were meeting with activity providers, and it was incredibly emotional and really meaningful. It made me well up as well. So I just wanted to add to that. Objects, I think, I mean, again, there is a lot of work on academic work and research work on objects, but you know, when you think about museums and, you know, digital archives, all of those kind of things, they're all really what we're doing when we go to a museum or an art gallery or something, is we're going to look at an object. And, you know, and those objects, the history of those objects speaks to who we are now, I suppose, you know, and that's the idea behind Moments in Time, that actually, as Natalie said, some of these moments were really difficult, you know, but also some of them increased kind of collegiality, positivity, you know, and so the idea behind objects is that somehow they capture those really simply without having to read kind of, you know, tomes and tomes of text or whatever. We can look at an object and that's very resonant for us. And I guess objects, you know, much of our identity is invested in objects. Actually, we spend a huge part of our lives acquiring objects, and then we get rid of them. You know, I remember, I've told you the story before, Hilary, but, you know, when my mother died, her kitchen table, which was so significant for her, you know, nobody wanted it. So, you know, there was an enormous amount of kind of emotional significance, you know, attached to that object and you know, to its ending as well. So I think objects, they just they tell us a lot about who we are and different periods that we've moved through, very simply.
That's lovely, thank you. And I suppose when you're capturing memories, and we're talking about capturing memories, and particularly from an activity provision perspective, that actually an object can give you, can provide an opportunity to talk about something, can't it? It can really be help. It's a conversation starter as well, isn't it? And actually we have generic objects that we can, you know, that most of us would recognize and be familiar with, but also things that might really enable somebody to reflect on their lives, that are quite specific to who they are as well, which is really, really important. And sometimes, as we know, for people living in care homes, they may have left a lot of objects behind. They have, you know, but some with them, hopefully, of significance, but actually a lot of their stuff may have had to have been left behind, or family members, friends may have given it a home. And so that is really significant towards end of life as well, isn't it? About how little objects people have around them. So actually, when we're looking at a moment in time, whatever that might be, and whether that's to do with the pandemic or generally in terms of transitions, thinking all the transition work that activity providers do with people when they're moving into a care home, for example, those objects that they bring with them, or that we can recreate in some way, can really help to build relationship as well, can't they? You know, that's really significant. So I think there's a lot more to talk about when it comes to objects, and NAPA are looking forward, hopefully, to working with Denise and her colleague Sandra in the future around the role of objects in care homes and with activity providers. So watch this space on that one, because I think it is an area that we really do need to focus some attention on. So highlights. Any particular highlights in terms of this? I mean, and it was a project, a national project, but a little one. Anything in particular that kind of stayed with you that you would like, either of you would like to share? Natalie, do you want to go first with that?
It will always stick with me. The creativity towards this this project. You know, we don't have expectations. We never have expectations. We absolutely promote that when anyone's delivering, supporting, or giving an activity or session. So I think for me, when Denise joined us back in that group, and we met quite a few of the organisations, the APs that have been taking part in this project from the APA group, it was emotional, because they created boxes and memories and objects and letters and everything, as I mentioned before, that we kind of didn't envision coming out of this project. I kind of, like I said, we've not got expectations. We were very open-minded. But for me, for my magic moment to take away from this project is that, and as I mentioned, today's the day that everyone will be opening them. So what comes after this, I think, is just going to be a second magic moment, if I can have one.
Absolutely, you can have as many as you like. Denise, anything to add to that in terms of the highlight?
What would I add to that? I think I'd certainly add, or just echo what Natalie said, that actually the inspiration, the sort of creative stuff that people were making, people made puppets, didn't they? Some of the activity providers made puppets of themselves, and put them in the boxes. And I think, you know, alongside what we've talked about in terms of objects and meaning making and identity, you know, the creativity is known to be really helpful, and that's at the core of your work. So I guess for me, just adding to that, the photos, quite a few of the photos were shared on social media, and again, they're just beautiful and so emotional. The boxes that people made, you know, I remember one they made this absolute beautiful kind of engraved bespoke box, and others were just covered in photos, and you know, they were just amazing and just, you know, hugely kind of resonant. So, but I guess also just to add that, you know, out of all these things come other things, and it's meant that I've worked with both of you on a chapter in a book that also talks about moment in time. You know, so it's that sort of lovely idea of just connection leading to connection and collegiality, and also just to give a little mention to some of our MA students, our Masters Social Work students, where I work part-time at Chichester. They also made moment in time boxes last year, so I've just flagged with them to remember to open those today, or not, as you say, Natalie, they may want to keep them closed, but I just think that idea of also moving forward and making different connections would be one of my magic moments.
Lovely, thank you so much, both of you. So we have some comments and some questions coming up. So this one is from Joanne. You can see it on the screen. I think this is a lovely idea, and I feel this would help our residents. We're still working with COVID. It's just so hard to know how to support everyone when it's always here. Yes, and I think that is that acknowledgement that it hasn't gone away. And for some of our care homes, some of the NAPA member care homes, we know that it's still very much in their day-to-day, you know, working lives. And I think that's important to recognise that. Please keep in touch with us. Please get in touch with the support line. You know, we're very lucky to be able to ask Denise for advice on some of these issues, and I'm sure if you got in touch and you needed to have any additional conversations, she'd be happy to be a point of contact for people. But no, that's a very good point, Joanne, thank you. Mick asks, can we still take part, and if so, where can I get the information? So Natalie, I think, can you answer that one?
Yes, of course you can take part. Just because, you know, today is the day that we put this project is opening or not opening of the box. Of course you can take part. Start one today, open it next year. As Denise said right at the beginning of this chat, you know, a lot happens in 12 months. And in fact, me and Hilary was just saying this the other day, you know, 12 months, it doesn't seem that long, but it goes very quickly. So if you want to, it's on our website. Go and head over. There is a free fact sheet resource that you can go and get, and also the templates as Denise showed you on her box. And you know, I've not got the template on my box. My box was just the you know, when you get them for your birthdays, and I keep them because I hate waste. And I just thought it was beautiful. So it's up to you how you want to do that, but head over to the website, Mick. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Natalie. And another question coming up. So this is from Jenny. Oh, fab. So Jenny said, we took part last year. It was interesting to see what people put in the box, the most random things, but it sparks conversation. Absolutely. Sometimes the more random, the better to spark conversation. We opened them this morning. So that's brilliant, Jenny. Please send us your photographs if you took photographs of people opening their boxes, or you'd like to send us a little write-up of how that went. We'd love to hear more about it. That's fantastic. And oh, fantastic, another one. Question from Tammy. I think we could adapt this idea for other things and other events that we have. I'm thinking about the Jubilee, for example. Absolutely, those national events. Very good point. Thanks, I love these mini these live mini talks. Well, thank you very much. There's another one this evening, which I'll tell you about in a minute, Tammy. But that's fantastic, brilliant. Now, any thoughts on that, Natalie, as you led on all our Jubilee projects this year? Anything you want to say on that?
Thank you for bringing that up, Tammy. The Jubilee project that we had here at Napa this year was a huge success. Absolutely fantastic, and rightfully so. You know, again, this is what we're talking about in Napa, and this is what we love. You know, you're listening in now, you're thinking about the moment in time, but you're adapting it to your individual, something that works for your setting. Of course, anything momentous like the Jubilee, maybe a special birthday, you know, maybe you've had a connection with a school, and that first interaction, capture their moments. Would you not say, Denise? Put that in a box. And maybe, you know, a year's time, 2-3 years time, or a celebratory event like 10 years, you've had that connection with that school. Open them boxes. Some of them children would, you know, the intergenerational practice, some of them children would love to remember the photograph that they took with them first individuals right at the beginning. Would you say, Denise?
I'd completely agree with that. I think, you know, what we've talked about already is to do with meaning making, and I just think, you know, any events, any sort of things that are meaningful to you that happen, then use this way to make meaning from them. And as somebody else said, to spark conversations. You know, I had a conversation with someone very recently, and I said something about card indexes. And they said to me, "What's a card index?" and, and you know, it made me feel about 300. But I think, you know, it was really interesting just to have that kind of conversation, and just to realize how, you know, how different we are, but also, you know, very much sharing similarities as well. So I think absolutely, you know, it's a simple idea, use it. And the other thing I would say is, you know, maybe sometimes don't open them as well, just keep them as, you know, a little archive of what's gone on in your professional setting or your family, or, you know, wherever it is. And, you know, maybe open them in 10-15 years or something like that. Don't always feel that you've got to kind of be opening them in a year. I think I'm going to save ours, and just have it as a kind of, you know, little testament to what happened when we were in COVID.
I think I like that idea of an archive. I think you've just hit something there. I mean, constantly as activity providers, we're looking for, you know, in the charity shops or in like scrapyards, you know, trying to find objects, asking family members for objects to run reminiscence sessions, you know, to pop these out. And I'm thinking, you know, sorry if I'm wrong, was it Tammy that asked the question about the Jubilee? I mean, you know, in 5-10 years time, when you might want to hold a session, you know, there's your archive box, there's your reminiscence box, and it's actual tangible objects from that era. So I think you've hit something there, Denise. Definitely keep it and build yourself an archive of memories.
Brilliant. And this is being cast live, as you know, and cast live on our other page as well as on YouTube. So we've got a question that's come in from the other page. This is from Sophie. She says, "I'm just worried what emotions this might bring forward. I'm not sure how I would support that if my residents or staff would want to remember that period. Do not want to sound negative, but it was just a really bad time for us, and it still is." Denise, can I ask you to respond to that one, please, from Sophie?
Yeah, I think, you know, that's a really important point. And of course, I don't think any of us would suggest doing anything that people might find difficult. But it puts me in mind, you know, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, you know, who is probably the most frequently quoted person about stages of grief and loss. She actually said that there is a purpose in denial, that denial has a grace to it. And I think what she meant by that is that, you know, sometimes we're not ready to think about things, and that's okay. And I think, you know, denial's almost been associated, hasn't it, with bad things, and it isn't. I think we have to do things in our own time, you know, when things feel right for us. But I think even, you know, when that time comes, I think it is important to remember things, even if they haven't been necessarily on the surface hugely positive things, even if they've been difficult things, because it does help us find the meaning in them, and it's that way that we get to process those things, so they don't become kind of blocked or
Absolutely.
you know, the big elephant in the room kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, but I think it's about getting the right timing, you know, and at the moment, as we've said, it's still here, you know, and it's been hugely difficult for people.
Yeah. Thank you, Denise. That was beautifully put. And I think also something that, you know, hopefully is echoed in all of the NAPA resources is that I think sometimes people think of activities and we think about having fun and laughing and singing all the time. But really, really important part of activity provision and part of well-being is the opportunity to be sad and to reflect and to share the losses that we've experienced. And so, you know, it's really important to me, but it's important to the team here at NAPA that, you know, how we spend our time and how we choose to spend our time, that will inevitably, particularly for people who are living with complex care and support needs, have experienced lots of transition and change. It's going to come up somewhere, somehow, through the activities that you're providing for them. So embrace that, I suppose, is what we're saying. You know, support them up to the point at which you feel able and skilled, and get the support you need from your manager and from the rest of your team as well, and refer to specialist services whenever you feel that is appropriate to do so. So, you know, thank you for that, Sophie. I think that's a really, really important point, and thank you, Denise, for responding to that. Tom said, I like the idea of collating moments in time, not just COVID, but anything really. It's also good to revisit those moments. Okay, to look back and to see how far we've come. This is a really good idea. Thank you for that, Tom. We agree. It's a very good idea. And Steph said, I love this idea. We'll be trying this. I think it's about the right time. It is about the right time, isn't it? And it could be now that's the right time, or it could be when is the right time for you, but also when is the right time for the people that you support. I think at the moment that's the questions we've got, but some more might come in over the next couple of minutes. Do you have anything particular that either of you would like to add to the conversation so far, or any of the points that have been raised from our viewers this afternoon?
Shall I go first?
Yes, please.
I just think, as always, be led by the individuals that you're supporting. You know, there's been quite a collection, as we've just seen there, of questions coming in from obviously different places and positions and moments where people are up to, and that's fine. And just, you know, watch back and listen again to what Denise has said and how you can support that. There is support and guidance out there for you. But for me today, you know, this chat coming out of this and the lovely idea from Tammy was it that, you know, changing and using this as a tool to create an archive. I just think that's brilliant. You know, I think that's great, and that's what it's about, isn't it? It's about capturing them moments in time without sounding too cheesy.
Cheese is fine. Denise, anything else to add?
Yeah, I think I have. I think I mean, for me, I have loved working with NAPA, you know, from the moment, and the NCF, you know, from the moment that we first met. I just think the creativity, you know, and the positivity around these organisations is just brilliant, you know, and for me, as I said previously, it's led to all sorts of other connections. So I think that's just one of the things that I wanted to stress. You kind of do something, and then, you know, other things might happen as well, and I think that's really important. I suppose one of my frustrations is that Hilary will know this, that I spent ages kind of spamming some of the media until my thumb wore out. You know, and I just feel that actually these ideas that we've talked about, and the creativity and the activities that go on in care homes, you know, I feel quite frustrated that they're not picked up more by the mainstream media.
Yes.
And I have, you know, like I say, I have worn the skin off my thumbs at times trying to
You have.
trying
Yes.
to sort of promote that, because I think, you know, this chat's, you know, fantastic, and it needs to, you know, be heard about. I think the activities that you're doing, that you're all doing, and all the people that have sent in questions, they, you know, this needs to be more celebrated, actually. So that's my kind of little moan.
I didn't see it as a moan. I think you're right, and I think it's something that obviously we're passionate about. The people that take part, the care homes we support, the care services we all work with are passionate about as well. So no, very, very good point, well made. And just from my perspective, thank you for obviously approaching us with this fab idea, and thank you to the National Care Forum and to Vic Rayner, who I think I phone stood at a bus stop in the pouring rain and said, you know, I've been approached by Denise Turner with this idea, and Vic said, absolutely, why wouldn't we? Well, why wouldn't we? This is a brilliant idea. So a huge thanks as always to the National Care Forum and to Vic for their support as well. And thank you to everybody who's taken part. And as Natalie said, it's not too late to still get involved if you would like to. So thank you both very, very much for being with me this afternoon. I think we are just about out of time. If anybody would like to make contact with us or would like to get hold of Denise, please just give Natalie a ring on the support line, drop us an email, and we will get back to you as soon as we possibly can. We try to respond within a couple of days to all the enquiries that we receive on the support line. The support line is very busy, so please bear with us, but we will get back to you within a couple of days. The support line is open 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. And we have the Facebook group, which is monitored 7 days a week. So, please do get in touch with us one way or the other. Just a couple of NAPA announcements. I always have a few, as you know. The August calendar is now out, and we are very, very proud of it. It's a fantastic calendar. So please download that. Tell us what you think. We've also just launched a toolkit with My Home Life for activity providers and care home leaders and managers, which shares top tips for positive working relationships. So please have a look at that. And I think absolutely, it's all happening below me, isn't it? So all these links are being magically appearing in the chat, which is great. And just on the note of, it's a hot day. Please, if you haven't seen it already, please have a look at the hydration top tips that we've been putting out over the last few days. Look after yourselves and the people that you support. It's very tempting to get out and about. Of course, enjoy the weather, but please look after yourselves. And lastly, we are delighted to share that the Afternoon Tea Week webpage is now live, and the resources which we have co-created with Lakeland Dairies all around Afternoon Tea Week will be launched very, very soon. So head over to the webpage and have a little look. Tell us what you're up to for Afternoon Tea Week, and book your ticket for the Afternoon Tea concert. The next Tea Tuesday event will take place on the 2nd of August, and we will be celebrating NAPA's National Day of Conversation and Connection. So come back and see us then, 2:30, same time, same place. You can watch this again. It will just reappear each time you click on it on Facebook and YouTube. It's very clever, that tech. I'm not quite sure how it works, but I am told that it will. And share it with your friends and your colleagues. Thank you all very much for being here. Thank you for joining me, Denise and Natalie, and we will see you all again very soon. Bye for now. Bye-bye.